And buenos dias, salute, salutations to everybody out there. Time is now 8:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the DMV. We've got the wharf right behind me in the nation's capital. You can see the obelisk, aka the Washington Monument. So I'm here to discuss a few things because we have some problems to deal with and contend with, especially amongst the melanated. And especially in the community amongst those who are spiritual, there's a lot of things that we just don't really know. And I want to be able to talk about some of these things in a rant. So this is a mental alchemy rant. Let's get to some of the details. If you've seen some of my video content, shooting in the car predominantly, because it's actually very easy to do and it's very cathartic for me. Actually, I appreciate you watching, but I want to talk about something really serious, and I want to talk about the consideration of, do you really understand the game that's being played? And if you don't understand the game is corporate, okay? But if you don't understand the inner workings of the corporate game, then you are not going to be able to sustain in this new, ever expanding technological realm and arena. You think you can, but I might beg to differ. And what we're going to talk about real quick, actually, I want to bring this up, right? Because I pulled this article up, and I actually found this article quite disheartening. And if you happen to listen to Erica Williams on YouTube, she discussed this. Let's talk about it. Race. This is from The Guardian. 93% of districts in the major U.S. cities unaffordable to Black residents. In most metro zip codes, majority of Black local renters don't earn enough to afford median rents. National Equity Atlas found more than 90% of neighborhoods in America, majority cities, were unaffordable to the majority of local Black residents at the start of the pandemic, according to a new study on the worsening housing crisis in urban regions across the U.S. And I'll land the plane right there. You got to understand that you're being squeezed in this current economic climate. And the way that you are going to be able to get out is through understanding how the mechanics of money work. The first rule of money is to make more money. And the second rule of money is to understand that there is no money, but there are negotiable instruments with rules. Learn the rules of the game to play and win. And because you don't understand the rules, it's hard to kind of get ahead of things, because as things continue to go up, we call it inflation. There's a vocabulary term for that. Your life becomes harder to function and maintain while you're still trying to have a particular quality of life, while you're thinking of dreaming and you're thinking of developing perhaps a business. Shout out to all the entrepreneurs, and it's hard as sugar honey iced tea to do, but because there's multiple skill sets you have to have and develop, from marketing and emotional resolve. There's a lot in that arena. I'm still an advocate that you go through the process of entrepreneurship and small business, because some of you need to make it so that your little cousins can have a job over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. It's going to be up to you. And you're like, who's this guy talking? You're talking to someone who was raised by the grandmother whose parents died young and who was in a shelter in his late teens and early 20s, considered at-risk youth. I was at Sasha Bruce and Covenant House here in the District of Columbia, from Mellow Street Southeast to 30th and Pennsylvania, off Pennsylvania Avenue. I had that time of my life before, and it was a very difficult thing to have to deal with, because there was just so much I didn't know. It really was. So the game that we're playing is a corporate game. And the reason it's a corporate game is because you have to understand how all of this came about. Some of you are savvy in this space, and congratulations to you in your study. But if you don't know, you have to understand that you're a person. And according to 28 USC 3002 subsection 10, there are multiple definitions of the term person. Let's take a look at them. Let's pull it up because you ain't got to believe me. I'm gonna read it, but do your own due diligence and do it for yourself. Let's see. Voila. All right, so here we go. So if you don't know, if you live in de los Estados Unidos, the United States, we have titles. If some of you might have a profession in, let's say, the nursing field, but you also see a lot of different things in the back wall dealing with HR. That's very normal for you to have. It makes a lot of sense to have various rules and concepts, and they're broken up into titles. So titles are segmented, rules and regulations, they have definitions, and definitions matter because law is word science. Move that to the side. Okay. So in 28 USC, there's a list of definitions, and I encourage you to do your own due diligence and take a look at this for yourself, because this is where we're going to begin today in our discussion and why this is important and significant. If we scroll down to 10 of subsection 10, we're going to see the definition for the word person. Now, some of you are in credit repair, so you should be familiar with this because you can also find this in some of the other legalese when it comes to person, individual. These are just entities, but let's read what the actual definition is. Person includes a natural person, including an individual Indian, a corporation, a partnership, an unincorporated association, a trust, or an estate, or any other private or public entity, including a state or local government, Indian tribe. Okay, well, that's a lot of definitions for just one word. Person does not mean just a human being. And every business is a person, and every person, in essence, is a business. All right, a state and a trust. If you're in de los Estados Unidos, this is important and significant. Let's roll down to 15A. United States means A, a federal corporation, B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States, and C, an instrumentality of the United States. So some of you have done your study into what happened in 1933 and the development of HR 192 and the creation of Title 42, and that deals with the Social Security Administration. Some of you have worked in these departments before and understand it from that spectrum. But the biggest thing I want you to understand, if you don't take, you're like, well, I don't really know what all that means. I'm just going to say it this way, and this is the way that I talk about it and teach it. You were given a business, and you were given a business. Well, the United States, in essence, created a business called you. Because an estate document is your birth certificate, and a trust document is the Social Security number. Excuse me. And I don't know what they look like today, but if you actually read the back of it, it tells you who it belongs to. If you read the back of it, flip it over and look at your kids. It says, this belongs to the Social Security Administration and must be returned upon request. Well, if it belongs to them, and is it really yours? Well, it's for your commercial use. And it's for your commercial use. So they created an entity called you. And you know, there's some ideology behind the all caps name, you know, capitis diminutio maxima and all of that. But look, your name isn't spelled in all capital letters. And some of you remember in in school that you don't spell proper names with all capital letters. That is a word. There's other vernaculars like nom de guerre or ens legis. It's a legal fiction. Okay. The United States created a business or a person called you. So that means you're a business. That's how I talk about it. And are you running your life like a business? That's a different question. And what I like to talk about is, are you conscientious of the fact in this ever expanding landscape that we're dealing with post 2020 event? I'll say it that way. about what you're supposed to be doing from an economic perspective, because I just read this. And if you're part of the melanated community, then we can see that there is data and statistics already that are saying 93% of individuals, 93% of blacks cannot afford to live in major cities, right? So you're like, well, what can I do? I'm going to tell you, you need to be economically organized. You need to have 5 checking accounts at your anchor bank, 5 checking accounts at your anchor bank. And they go just like this: operation, expense account, savings account, investment account, and merchant account. The merchant account is connected to your Cash App, PayPal, and so on and so forth. I'm actually going to create a university. I'm actually in the process of doing that so that you can actually get proper education and run your life like a business. Because if you are not mentally expanding, and I made this live in the concept of your universal expansion, if you're not expanding from an universal level, you're going to have a really hard time in the future. And then if you have your own personal children and kids, that's redundant. Your own personal children, cousins, nieces, nephews. You got to understand that they need you. They need you to get this kind of information. They need you to think in a certain way. This subject matter is very important to me that you understand. The other thing is, you got to stop using the debit card. You should not be using a debit card for anything. And the reason you shouldn't use a debit card for anything, because you get no benefit from using a debit card. Tell me what the benefit is that you get from using a debit card. It doesn't exist. Now it's twofold. You say, well, so I'm supposed to use a credit card for everything? Yeah, you should. You should have a credit card for your expenses that are paid from your operating account. And your operating account is a holding account for your funds that you get from W-2. If you have a side hustle, you get that money coming into the merchant account. You move the money around, put the money on the credit card. But guess what? I don't even call them credit cards. I call them plastic employees, cash flow devices, or debt acceleration tools. And the more that I talk and the more that I create some content to get you to understand, I'm here to wake you up. I need you to wake up. I am that cool cousin. I'm the cool cousin with the cool shades. Cool cousin with the cool shades. Ibn Alameen Mental Alchemy, so that you can really start to think in a different way, because we did not create the game. But if we don't learn the rules of the game, it's going to be very difficult for us over the next 5, 10, 15 years. The choices that we make in what we call our present now, are going to permeate throughout history. So we got to get it together. And this conversation might not necessarily be for everyone. And I'm okay with that. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about, what am I supposed to say that people can really get a semblance of, who I am and, what I'm really about. But I realized that for the people who this message resonates with, it'll resonate with. And for those, if it doesn't resonate, it just won't resonate. And I have to accept that, get involved in some sort of inner circle to where you can get the information that you need so that you can make systematic decisions on your choices from an economic perspective, of course, because that's very important, that you can get the results that you claim you want. So moving to the side, that's that. So 14 minutes now, 14 minutes on here. I think that I'll conclude with that. I want you to think about what I said. I'll come back another time and we can discuss things further. I'm so conscientious of the human condition because I'm polymathic and autodidactic, and I get it. Attention spans are short, right? So I want to be able to curtail it and have a hyper-focused dialogue so that it can be digestible for you. But takeaways: you are a business, so you got to think about how to run your life like a business. I'm your cousin, best friend, Comigo, Ibn Alameen, also known as Mental Alchemy or Coach Ibn. I'll see you guys next time. And all that you do, be sure to build the bank and your life desires a journey worth seeing, make sure it is made manifest into reality. With that, ciao.